Community College, which is part of CMU, so I have a frame of reference for both schools. The scholarship that Kristen was mentioning is the El Pomar Scholarship. So there's a couple of stipulations on that scholarship, but they're fun, easy ones to take care of. The first one is that you attend one of the summer camps that we put on. So we actually have those summer camps going still. We've got a couple more weeks of summer camps, so it's really not even too late to sign up for those this summer. But those are geared towards middle school and high school students. So there's a variety of ages that are attending those summer camps. And they're career and tech ed focused mostly. So we've got some that are designing comic books, and some that are kind of learning about filmmaking and special effects, and some are doing acting. And they're really fun. The kids seem to be really having a great time with those. So that's the first qualification. The second qualification would be to do concurrent enrollment. That's something that my department manages for CMU and WCCC, along with the school district and many of the school districts around this area. So if you do the summer camp, and you do one of the concurrent enrollment classes, and then you meet a couple of other requirements when you are registering for college. So you're Pell eligible or you're a first generation student. It's $2,000 per year for the first 2 years. So, and that's WCCC or CMU. But that scholarship is also available for students that maybe want to attend CMC or CNCC in Rangeley. So, really great opportunity, and you're learning things along the way, and kind of, when you're thinking about career planning, that experience with those different career and tech ed opportunities with the camps in the concurrent enrollment really give a great foundation for students to understand maybe where they want to go. And then the other thing I just want to put out there is that I'm happy to meet with anybody that's interested in concurrent enrollment, college, just exploring, just to talk about what's out there, how to do financial aid. Myself, my office, as well as the CMU IRIS team are all very highly trained in kind of especially the first year stuff, getting started in school and that business side of things, applying for financial aid and the steps to accepting that and how much should you accept and that kind of thing. And so I want to introduce myself and offer, if you have any questions, want any more information about that, please feel free to stop by our offices or contact any of the IRIS offices.
Thank you for coming tonight. Thank you for joining me. There is nothing I like more on a Tuesday night than to talk about college applications. I totally geek out on that stuff. And part of the reason I'm here is because of all the mistakes we made with our own children. So I want to share that with you. We have 3 daughters and a son. So I don't have a pointer tonight, so I'm going to walk back and forth. Kaya graduated from CSU, and we are happy to say is gainfully employed. And when she went through the process, we didn't know what to do. Like, she did it, right? And we think she got a $2,500 scholarship. We don't even remember. Like, we didn't know to apply for them. So we're like, oh, good job. Okay, great. And so then when McKeely came around, we were like, oh, okay, I see. There's some scholarships you can apply for. Let's do this. So McKeely went to Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington, and she had $82,000, which basically made Gonzaga in-state for her. So when Brielle, who happens to be here tonight, she was doing a couple things for me today. When she was starting, she graduated last year, I said, scholarships will be a part-time job. We are going to work hard on this. Brielle had $613,000 in the 6 schools that she was accepted to. So we're happy to say that Brielle is a duck. She is a STAMP scholar. STAMP Scholar is a scholarship foundation. It's a foundation. It's about 40 universities across the United States. At Oregon, there are 10 of them each year, 5 non-residents. It's full tuition and fees for 4 years and additional money for research and study abroad. So, we throw our O at our house. So we learned a lot through the process, and I realized people just don't know. So that is why I'm here. I want to help you go through the steps, and I'm so glad you're a sophomore, right? Yeah, it's awesome to have sophomores, juniors, and seniors looking at this process. Oh yes, and we have a son, Andrew. He will be in 1st grade at Holy Family. So when I put this together last year, I've been doing these workshops, and he said, why am I not in the PowerPoint? So So this is Andrew, graduated from pre-K there. He's very much loved, and Brielle is his best friend. So he's happy when she's home. Okay. On the back table, I think I talked to most of you. I have some timelines. Pretty simple, they're easy. Freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. I need to be honest, I need to tell you this. I have done this workshop before, and I have made people cry. And that is not my intention at all. But I've had people fall apart because they go into their senior year and they're like, what? And so I'm not doing that. It's there. But just listen and be calm, and you have plenty of time. And to help people meet them where they're at, I ask a few questions when I do a strategy session. And to make it easy for me, I just made it an acronym because I'm that kind of person. So SMARTER, VS, schools. It's kind of, I don't know how to change it, so hopefully you can see that well enough. Schools. Do you have your list? Okay, so I know, I'm going to pick on you.
Yeah.
You've got your list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and we've got a senior parents here. Any other seniors? Just underclassmen. So, underclassmen, you can be looking for the schools. Seniors should be narrowing down that list. And on that timeline, the average student will apply to 8 to 12 schools. I usually say 3, you're going to get in, 3 likely, 3 stretch, 3 reach schools. But I have people who are applying to 1 school and 1 school only. I have people, no, they've narrowed it down to 2 schools. I know there are people, I've got work with kids who are like, I'm just going to CMU, I know this is what I want to do. So, I have one student who wants 20 schools. I really think she needs to narrow that list down. But you can apply to as many schools as you want, but you have to think about it. It's money, and you need to think about why you want to go there. The M is money. What can you afford? And we are going to talk about the financial piece of this a little bit tonight. But you have to have these conversations with your children, and children, you need to have this conversation with your parents, because this is a big decision, and you don't want to come out of it with a ton of debt. I was speaking to a banker last night at an event, and she goes, it's sad, because I am working with doctors who are coming out with so much student debt they can't afford a house. And so you don't want that. And I'll show you an inverted triangle. It's somewhere in here. Some people go, I'm going to this school, help me find the money. Other people, and we did not realize this is what Brielle did, she found the scholarships, then she picked her school. And so you have a choice. You don't have to just pick it and then just hope there's money. The A is for applications. CMU is rolling, so if you have anyone, if you're looking at CMU, you can apply at any time before that senior year. But there's a Common App. I don't know if Chapman, I'm picking on you because I know your schools. So is Chapman on the UC application? Does it have its own application?
Common App.
Is it on the Common App?
Yeah.
So the Common App, we will talk about that in a minute. The Common App has 822 universities on it. So you can apply to a lot of schools, but just getting on the Common App. But some schools have their own application. And you can choose. School of Mines has their own application. I think DU is on both, so you can pick. The R is for resumes. High school students, do you have a resume? If you don't have a resume, I have a template. I'm happy to share it with you. It sounds like that's what you'll be working with your volunteers. You want a resume for a couple of reasons. One, because when you become a senior, you need to walk into your teachers, or you could do this second semester of your junior year and say, please, would you write a recommendation for me? Oh, thank you. Here is my resume to help you with this. You can also put together a brag sheet, and I have a template for that as well. The other reason you want that is because on your applications, you have to put your activities in. And if you've got them on your resume, it just makes it a little bit easier. So I do have an action verb list back there that's geared towards kid stuff, and you want to be thinking about those action verbs with your resume. The T is testing. I don't know, you did your SAT as a junior in April. Maybe you've done the SAT a few times, the ACT a few times. It's up to you what you do, but you need to be thinking about when you will take it and when you will take it again, when is the last time you will take it, which test you prefer. My tip there, volunteers, there are so many SAT and ACT examples, sample tests online. They don't need to go in and practice and pay for one. Let them practice in a quiet space and see which test they prefer. The E is for essays. And if you are a rising senior, you should be working on your essays. And that would be, I'll call it a Common App essay, a personal statement. So on the Common App, there's one 650-word essay. And most schools need it. Then other schools will have supplements. CU Boulder in the past has been a diversity essay. How have you dealt with diversity? Stanford has 11 supplements. University of Chicago has some really crazy supplements. So they're out there, but if you can start on that personal statement first and get that done, then it just helps the process. And then the R is for research. I think when I first did my first timeline, I'm like, and when you're in November, start looking for scholarships. And that's not true at all. Like, I should be looking for scholarships for Andrew now. Just start now, because they are out there. And it sounds like for El Pomar, you need to be thinking about that at a younger age so you qualify for it. I have a lot of kids come to me in October and say, find me the money. But that's tough to do if they haven't spent some time on it prior to that. So I usually ask people, okay, these questions, where are you at? Because you know what, some of you have a resume, that's awesome, right? You've already started on your essays, you've got your list, like check those things off. So it's not like it's all coming at you at once. You guys can ask me questions at any time too. Okay, so schools. There are many different ways to find your schools. I think in this situation, the volunteers may be very helpful in helping research schools. Your school counselor would be helpful in researching schools. College data, I'm going to show you an example of college data. The FISC guide is fun. It's got like 400 universities. It's about 2 pages per university. And it will even say the culture of the university. For example, Braille goes to University of Oregon, and I think the first paragraph said, what do you get when you have a hippie and a vegetarian and a conservative and 3 liberals, you know? and because Eugene is a pretty cool town, but all kinds of people, and it really fits the college, that paragraph. So it's a cool guide. Barnes & Noble, Amazon, maybe volunteers, you want to have a copy of it for them. That might be a great idea. CollegeExpress.com I like, and the Common Data Set is my favorite. So maybe you've done this. You can look up any school and the words Common Data Set. So Common Data Set, Notre Dame. What happens is most colleges, I have not found one yet that doesn't have this. They put these statistics in there. And if you page down to about page 7, it will tell you you'll need this GPA ACT. But schools rank the things that you send in as extremely important, considered, and not considered. And so then you can go through, usually the school, rigor of classes, your transcript, your test scores, those are very important. Essays can be very important all the way to not considered. Sometimes I like the Common Data Set over these other sources because it's more up to date. So I was working with BYU students last year, and in the past, the essay was considered or important. Now at BYU, the essay is extremely important. So it changes with the schools. So that's one of my favorite resources. So this is college data, and these are screenshots, so I apologize if they're a little blurry, but it should give you an idea. College data, you do have to log in. I see here I'm Brielle. So you kind of create your own your profile, and then you can start looking up your schools. And it will give you things like how big is the school, how much is it going to cost, these kinds of things. It'll also have an overview. I think this is Colorado State University. I think on this page it even tells you what the weather is. Admissions is the one I like to go to, money matters, academics, and so forth. Then if you put in your information, it will tell you this is a reach school for you, this is a maybe school, this is a good bet. So it'll give you the statistics. So this is a nice source. Here's the money matters. I just pulled up Vanderbilt. This was last year, so I don't know if theirs has changed. But cost of attendance, these are the things you want to think about. So many times, kids think of the 12 name brand schools. You know, I just want to wear that name across my chest on that sweatshirt. And these are things to be thinking about, the costs and what's it going to cost to get you there. And yeah, I do apologize, Kristen. I have no idea why my picture's bigger than the screen, but hopefully you can read it. This is what I was talking about. Very important, considered, and not considered. So this is Vanderbilt. So it'll tell you what's important. Recommendations are important. Essays, very important. They say the interview is considered. If you have an opportunity to do an interview at any school, it's optional. You do the interview. But they'll also do things like first generation to attend college, state residency, geographic residence, those kinds of things. So I love the source because I'm geeky about college applications. All right. All right, so I talked to an admissions counselor and I just said, please give me some tips for college fairs. The Aspen College Fair is October 6th. It's usually the first Sunday in October. It's an awesome college fair. And you could start going as a sophomore. And just, it's over, maybe a little overwhelming if you've never been to it before. But there are a lot of schools there and there are also workshops. And I think the high schools take school buses. Yes? Yeah. Did you guys go?
Yeah, Posse did.
Yeah. It's fun, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of cool.
It's very, very big.
It's very, very big. Yeah, I know. There's so many people in some of these schools. So, one of the things you want to do, so Brielle's a good example of this. Brielle gets credit for finding her scholarship. And I will give you some tips on researching scholarships, but Google is the place to go. And she Googled high ACT score in full ride, which we cannot even take credit for because one of the Heckstrom boys did that. And he got a full ride to the University of Alabama. He switched schools, but pretty cool. So she looked up the STAMP scholarship while we were driving to Aspen, found the schools that had that scholarship, and we made sure we talked to them. One of them was Oregon. Okay? So think about what schools you want to talk to. Have specific questions. Talk to them. One of the things some schools will be looking for is demonstrated interest. Demonstrated interest could mean a lot of different things. We don't exactly know what it is, but they may be giving you a point every time you click on the email that they sent you. They'll give you a point if you call the admission rep, if you go talk to them at the college fair, if they come to your high school and you go talk to them. It depends on the school, but demonstrated interest could be important. So if you show your interest and you have some specific questions, and not things like, what's your mascot? Or what, is your football team good? Like you can find those things online. So ask some specific questions for you. And I'd like you to find a specific question, maybe if you're pre-med, ask about med school acceptance rates, ask if they have a cutthroat program, if they're very supportive. Something specific so you can get an answer over here, and you can get an answer over here, and then you can start to compare them. None of my children did this, but if you had many questions, you could schedule a separate meeting with them, which I didn't know until I talked to this person. And then always get their business card so you can follow up. Say thank you, write them an email, give them a call. And when you get to this point, kids, you are the ones who make the calls. Mom and dad do not make the calls. You need to, I know, it's tough to order pizza. My children can't do it either. But you just got to step out of your comfort zone.
Those reps want to hear from you. I have to tell you, they want you to call them. They want you to email them.
And they want to help, right?
Yeah.
They want you there. So thank you for that. This is another place for that resume. So you can walk in. When you do these college fairs, they have informational cards, inquiry cards that they'll have you fill out. I have seen some schools, I'm pretty sure it's Aspen, they have stickers that they make and they just slap on there so you don't have to waste the time at the college fair writing all this stuff down. I recommend having a resume, shaking their hand, handing them the resume. You may have to have it, they'll staple it to the inquiry card or whatever you've given them. They will take it. And then the inquiry card, and you guys, when you're at this point, can sure Google it, the kind of information they're looking for. All right, so you've researched your schools. We talk about fit. We talk about where am I going to fit? Do I want an urban school or a small school? Do I want a Christian school? What is it? Do I want a really green campus? But one of the most important things is your financial fit. Are you going to be able to afford this? So you got to talk to your parents, and you got to have this honest conversation about how much this is going to cost and how it's going to be paid for. And I wanted to just give you a few of the words. So the EFC is the expected family contribution. You Google EFC calculator, you can go do the calculator and figure out what your family contribution will be. I did the FAFSA with daughter number 2 who's going to grad school, and she will be paying for her own grad school, so her EFC was 0, So, but yours might be 100, I don't know. And when you're looking at school, you want to know the net price. So there's a net price calculator. Most universities have this on their website. They've got their sticker price. Like I showed you, Vanderbilt was what, 67? Minus the free money. Those are your grants. Those could be loans. Those are scholarships. What is the net price to you? You got to think. You got to know about the loans. You're going to have to. Some are unsubsidized. You don't have to pay them back. Some are subsidized. You pay. subsidized, you don't pay that. And FAFSA is a free application for federal student aid. So FAFSA opens October 1st. People get all scared about FAFSA, and it's really not that hard. It just takes a little time. I think the hardest part about the FAFSA is you have to redo it every year, and we'd always forget our password. And then we'd have to get a new password. And then you can't use an old password, and your name can't. It was really frustrating, so don't forget it.
I always tell people, write that down.
Yes.
Write that.
Put it in your phone contacts or something, because it's just like, well, I don't know if you guys always forgot yours, but we always did. And that opens October 1st, and some money is first come, first served. So you want to get it done, okay? I think the schools do a nice job of maybe having, or maybe CMU has nights, maybe, do you guys have a night where you help them?
We do have one on campus at CMU where you can come and work through it. Our financial aid office actually goes out to the high schools, so the high schools have nights with our financial aid office helping them. And my one reminder is it's 2 years of financial information prior to what you're looking at. So this October, you'll be using 2018's tax information.
Yeah, and it's nice because you can link right on there now to the IRS, and the IRS will put your taxes in. So that I like that feature. All right, so when it comes to applications, there are many terms and there's a timeline. I just tried to put some basic ones on here. EA is early action. Early action is November 1st, November 15th, maybe November 30th. The California schools, the UC application is November 30th. I know a student who missed their application because they thought it was December 5th, and it was November 30th, so you really have to pay attention to that. Early action is not binding. You can apply early action, and you should find out, obviously, earlier than regular decision, usually in the middle of December, and it's kind of nice, because actually all the students I work with focus on early action. I did have one student last year in Nebraska who was early decision, Pomona. She was like, I'm going to Pomona, early decision, and early decision is binding. So, obviously you know where this story is going, she didn't get in. And on December 30th, which happens to be my anniversary with my husband and Brielle's birthday, so at 11:30 at night, we are finishing up the regular decision essays. So you want to know your backup plan, but you really want to think about that early decision. If you know exactly where you're going, great. There is a slight advantage to it, but I don't recommend it unless, I don't recommend it, I guess. Regular decision is usually January 1st to February 1st. So I'm going to think, I think CU is January 1st. TCU at Texas Christian University, no, that's February 1st. So, and rolling admission is open year-round. So CMU is rolling admission. I know the University of Iowa is because we're Hawkeyes at our house, so all our kids apply to that. And we'll talk more about CMU in a second. And then the common application, I kind of mentioned it before, and I'm going to show it to you. I guess you guys may find it helpful, you volunteers, if you've not seen it for a while. And I do think the last number I saw was 822 universities on it. So I want to talk to you about the Common App. Trick, are you logged in?
Yeah, I have a common application profile, picked out some colleges.
On your dashboard, nice,
Yeah.
okay. So you can get on the Common App as a sophomore. You can get on early. What happens in the summer, like this year, it's July 28th through July 31st, the Common App will close. Then what they'll do is if any school changes a supplement or an essay, then they'll change that and it will reopen August 1st. But your information is saved. You'll just open it back up August 1st and then see if anything changed. It's not hard. Oh, and volunteers, you can do this. You can be I don't remember what it's called, but you can sign up and just have your own. Like I'm an advisor to students, I cannot change anything on their application, but I can sure proof it for spacing errors or misspelled words and things like that. And I can also, it helps me keep track of where they're at. Usually we are communicating, but just in case. So then you'll have this dashboard, and you can put schools on it, and you can search for colleges. I think parents can also have one. And then here's just a few example colleges. And then it will tell you, do the schools have a writing requirement? when a deadline is your application done, are your supplements done? And you can add to that, take away from it, so it's nice. You know, a lot of people will say college is not, the child has to do it all. This is a child's job. Yes, the child has to make the choice and write the essays for sure, but parents have to be involved. I really believe that because kids have so much on their mind. Pretty soon the fall sports are going to start, and then they've got AP tests, and they'd like to go to homecoming, and they're going to forget about those deadlines. I did have one student who missed the MIT deadline, and it was so sad. He's in the best place, he's at a great place, but parents, you need to help. And then I'm showing you this is a personal essay. So what you do is you write your essay in Google Docs or Word. I suggest if you do it in Google Docs, you also check it in Word, because Google Docs does not catch everything. But it's nice if, like volunteers, if you're working with someone, you can write comments back and forth. Kids really like it. You do that, copy and paste, it goes in here, and then most of the schools will need that. It's all done. You've done it once. 650 word max on that one. There's 7 prompts. I'm not showing them to you because you don't need to see them. You find your story first. It's got to be about you. My quote is, it's not my quote, my favorite quote, originality is non-existent. Authenticity is everything. They don't want your selfie-centered, filtered self, like I'm this great person. If you're going to tell us a tragedy or a challenge, they don't want to hear just about the tragedy or challenge. They want to know how you've overcome it and who you are and how you're going to make a difference on that campus, or a difference as a human being out as a dermatologist or a filmmaker, you know, like how are you going to do it? So you got to tell them that story. I've got a student who has lots of tragedy. I mean, 2 family members overdosed, and so she wants medical research. She wants to go into pharmaceuticals, and her first draft, she wrote all about them. And she's got to set the premise, right? She's got to tell us a story, but what we need to hear about her. And we need to hear how that has changed her. So. And then I told you CMU's rolling, so I wanted to show you this. So you'll go to any school. Just go to their school, check it out, do your research, and it'll say what their requirements are. So CMU, you do an application for admission. They need your transcripts or GED scores, SAT or ACT, $30 application fee, and then these 2 are optional, the letters of recommendation and personal essay. And I believe I have this correct. So I know you can't read this, but I just wanted you to kind of see the colors. This is the admission index for freshmen. And it's set by the Colorado Commission on Higher Education, so all the schools have some sort of criterion. We were talking about that earlier. But if you are the 4.0 with a 1600 SAT, you're going to get in, and you're way down here. But if you're in the gray, this middle section's gray, and then the white, that's when you need to be looking at, maybe you send the letter of recommendation, or you write the essay because you dealt with some tragedy, or you dealt with some challenges, and so it messed up your grades, you know? And they need to know that side of you, because there might be some circumstances that kind of changed your story. So anyway, I find that fascinating. That's interesting. And then we talked about tests. So are you taking it again?
Yeah, probably. I've taken the ACT twice, and then I took the SAT.
Do you like the ACT better?
I kind of like the SAT better, actually. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. And the average student will take it 3 times. They say, statistics say, the middle one is their best one because they're not panicked, because they're not nervous from the first one, and then they know they have another one. So I thought that was interesting. I use Brielle as an example. You can look at tutoring. Khan is good. There are apps where you can get an SAT question of the day. You should be doing that right now, by the way, if you're taking it again. And but if you haven't done it yet and you're taking the ACT, you ask for the test scores and the test booklet. Then it's like $20. Then you get it, and then you go through it, and you see, oh, I messed up the comma errors, you know, or I need to slow down on math, whatever it is. Brielle went up 5 points from one test to the next, and that's the only thing she did. So $20, like I know people spending thousands of dollars on the tutoring, and I have yet to hear of something incredible. I don't know if you know of any, but And con sounds pretty good. So anyway, what happens is you want to think about this, guys, especially if you're a junior. So you're like, okay, I play baseball, so I know I'm in the middle of my sport here, but I know I can take it here. I'm not in the middle of my season. I have time to study, and then you just kind of lay it out. And then if you want to take it one more time before the applications go out, you know you've got the fall to do that. All right, I want to talk a little bit about essays, and then I want to take your questions. I tell my students, if it's an easy essay to write, it is the right essay. If it's an easy essay to write, it's the right essay. And for those of you who have done the essays, maybe you've discovered that. I have this girl who's actually going to George Washington University next year, and she wrote this essay, and she's very liberal, and she lives in Nebraska, which is a very red state. And so the first essay she sent me, she was pretty much bashing all her neighbors. And I'm like, okay, I get where you're coming from. I know what you stand for, but you don't know who's going to be reading your essay, you know? So we need to maybe change that a little bit. And so she worked on it, and then all of a sudden she sent me a completely different essay. And the reason she is so passionate and going to George Washington will be great for her is her mother is very, very ill. And she almost had to move out of the country because they can't afford the health care. And she told this story about dragging her mom to the hospital, and her hands were curled over, and she couldn't straighten her hands, and she actually the girl got in a car accident on that day. I mean, it was just like, and she's like, this was really easy to write. And it was just like, the story, it gives me chills when I think about it. She stood up to play her violin solo for the first time, and teetering on her high heels, and looked out to the audience, and mom wasn't there. You know, and mom was always there. And so she got her point across about caring about public health, but she didn't bash her neighbors in the process. So it was very cool. So when you're writing essays, my students will write on average 7 to 10 drafts. And some will get it done in 3. Sometimes they have to. But if you have the time to write it, take the time so you can set it aside and not keep working on it. And then pull it back up. But if you know you have this time, one, if you have to change the topic, you change the topic. I did have a student last year, this is fun. He had an essay, and he was going to talk about spar pole climbing. They do that in Eagle Scouts, where they climb the pole. And so we had the rough outline, he had this essay, and then he kind of fell off the face of the earth. And I was just like, where is he? And his mom reached out, and she goes, I think he needs to change his essay. I think he needs to write about bracketology. I don't know if you know what bracketology is, but it's March Madness. It's the brackets. And he has been doing this since 3rd grade. He was the 3rd boy, and his mom has notebook upon notebook of all his brackets. Well, he is an engineer mind, if there ever was an engineer mind. And then he taught himself JavaScript, so he could use the Kali matrix method to work on the brackets. And it's a fun essay. Like, it was very interesting and very different. And he called me during March Madness to tell me that he got into Duke. That was his #1 choice. And I'm like, this is awesome. I need to ask, did it help? And he said, not at all. So I think we all had our mess of brackets this year. But the idea was, when you're writing an essay, it's uncommon topic, uncommon language, or uncommon structure. That was definitely an uncommon topic. So. But he was able to get across the point that he's a geeky engineer, and he loves that, and that's how his brain works. And now he's going 4 years full tuition and fees. So anyway, when you're writing an essay, my business is called WildPeace, and so I use another acronym, and it's WILD. So the W is, who are you? Why are you telling me this? What is your story? Why do I need to know this? And I gave you those examples before. You can have a challenge, you can have something you dealt with. Fine, get over that and tell me who you are, why you're telling me this. Because we need insight. If I am editing an essay, first of all, I'm reading the first sentence to see if I want to keep reading. And because these admission reps are reading thousands of essays, so you better pull them in right away. But I'm looking for 3 to 5 core values, like who you are. And so when I am writing comments, a lot of times I'll write either, so what, or dig deeper. Okay? So let me use that student who dealt with the trauma in her family and the drug overdose. So what? Why are you telling me this? Because it truly affected my mother. How did it affect your mother? Well, it affected my mother. Her dad also dealt with something. And this family is this really tight unit. And she goes, we're like lonesome wolves. And I'm like, so what? Why are you telling me this? She goes, because I want to change the world. I don't want this to happen to another family. And so when we see her essay, it's like this hourglass. She just kept digging. The L is living. And this is my favorite letter for sure, because the application, the numbers are there. We know this is what you got on your test, and these are the classes you're taking. That's awesome. But the essay, that is the living, breathing part of your document. That is where you come alive. That is where you tell us who you are and why they need you on that campus and why you will be a great whatever you're going to be. So I love that. I love that. It just comes into life. I love my job because I get to hear all these stories. And D are drafts. I told you, it's usually 7 to 10 drafts, and if you expect that, that means 2 things. 1, start early, and 2, don't stress. You got time to fix it. So don't start the night before it's due. Then you'll get into the depth, then you'll get into the details. So if you remember Wild, I think it's helpful. This is, I talked about this before, so I want to talk about scholarships now. And so this is basically what Real did. You find all the scholarships and then you pick your school. I have a color chart. It's a prism color chart. It's very interesting, and it's got about 200 schools on it, and it'll show GPA, ACT score, and SAT score. And then it goes to the different categories. And so obviously everyone turns to the last one to see what schools are in that. And then it's got it by region. So it'll have a few schools from the Northeast and the South and the West and so forth. And but if you look at that, if you go lower than your GPA and your test scores, you're probably going to get more money. Those private schools, those top schools don't need to give it to you unless it's need-based, and they help you with it. So it's kind of an interesting chart. And you want to think about those things, you know? Are you going pre-med? You're going pre-med. Do you want to go to an Ivy League and be middle of the class? Or do you want to go to a state school with great science and then be at the top of your class so you have the scores and the MCATs and you can move on? So when it comes to scholarships, they're basically, I divide them up into 3. So there's the National Private Foundations, the Institution College of Choice, which is where you will get most of your money. Now, I talked to the parents who have a baseball player. I don't work with sports scholarships. I'm pretty much merit aid and community service type things. So if you go to the school, even if you go to CMU, you'll see these are your scores. This is how much money you'll get right now. And then you may have some additional scholarships you can apply for. And then it'll have different categories, like maybe it's the Dean Scholarship, and the Trustee Scholarship, and the President's Scholarship. And then there are local, and please do not scoff at the local scholarships. Because if you get a $1,000 scholarship and it took you 4 hours to write the application and the essay, you just made $250 an hour. And I think pretty much any of us in this room would be like really happy with that. So there are many local scholarships. Go to your website. If you're at Fruita, the counselors page has a list on their first page, and then they tell you to go to Naviance. The other high schools, I think, all say go to Naviance. I don't know, Palisade did you go to Naviance? But they're out there. If you're an engineer, there's Western Colorado Oil and Gas Association. They have a great scholarship to CMU, but they also have an engineering scholarship to any other school. There's a Western Colorado Community Foundation, and that's due about March 3rd, March 6th. So I always think the private national ones are coming up right now in the fall. The institution will be when you apply. That's the other thing you look at. You may not get more money if you apply early action. Some of those scholarships may close, or you'll get scholarships for the honors program, but you have to apply early action. And then the local ones, they can be all any time, but I think most of them are in the spring. Fruita has they still do, top boy and top girl in the senior class. So the chamber, Fruita Chamber has them. I know that. We need to get the Junction Chamber.
For CMU, for people thinking about CMU or WCCC, there's a foundation scholarship. So it's one application for all of the scholarships managed by their foundation. But that app closes at like the last day of December for the following year. So that's a plan ahead.
Yes, thank you for that. Again, things that we learned as a family, and I've seen students learn, because you just don't know. So Merit Aid, go check the school's website, Naviance. The careeronestop.org, it's pretty good. It's U.S. Department of Labor's free scholarship search tool. I used to love FastWeb. Like I used to tell people, go to FastWeb, get a login, you're going to get a lot of spam email. It's good. It's really good. Don't get me wrong. But here is my favorite tip. It's look up your major, the word association, and foundation. or scholarship, association and scholarship. So chemistry, association, scholarship. So I made my kids do this. and so Brielle looked up chemistry and psychology, association, scholarship. McKeely looked up graphic design, association, scholarship. I looked up adoption, association, scholarship. And what happens is it takes you right there. It's just a faster way to search them. But then go past the major. Like if you're into yoga, look up yoga, association, scholarship. I have kids doing community service projects. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but one's into sustainable farming. Look that up. So just find words that connect with you, and those two words. I just tell everyone this is my favorite one. So when it comes to the scholarships, what are they looking for? The big one in Colorado is the Betcher Foundation, and Betcher says this. So it's academics, community service, and extracurriculars. And so now I feel like I'm really, really talking to you. Because these guys, seniors, they've got they're in their leadership roles and everything, but you get to start choosing what you want to do. And if you're interested in these scholarships, then you need to start thinking about it ahead of time and get involved. And we'll talk about it here. So Betcher is a full ride to any school in Colorado. Betcher, that's a big one, the Betcher Scholarship Online.org competitive. So if you look up competitiveness quiz, Betcher Foundation, it will take you to a quiz that you can take as a sophomore, junior, and as a senior. So daughter number 2 applied for Betcher and did not get into the semifinals. Brielle was a freshman and said, I am getting the Betcher. And so she did this quiz, and she'd be like, and it will tell you, you need more leadership work, you need to do more leadership roles in the community. Or you need a higher ACT score, I don't remember, but it'll give you tips. And then it will tell you I'm very competitive or you're not competitive and so forth. And I say that and I tell you this and then I say, but don't worry about it, because the same year Brielle was a finalist, so was Piper Doyle at Palisade. And when she took this quiz, she was non-competitive. But she had to fly in from Croatia because she was on the United States National Debate Team and she had to take the last interview slot at Betcher. So the girl was pretty talented. So look at that, but it was really a great resource because then you could go, oh yeah, I need to do more in the community, or I need to do more leadership roles in my school. So I'm going to figure out what I want to do as a freshman and sophomore, then I'm going to get more focused and be a leader as a junior or senior. Or I'm going to start a new broadcasting club, or I'm going to do these things. Your counselors will identify those people. Usually you'll start working on it at the end of September into October, and then it's due at Betcher November 1st, and it may change. Then they have semifinalists. Semifinalists turn in 3 recommendations, and then they have 100 finalists that interview for the 42 slots. That's in March. Daniels Fund might be interesting to you. Daniels Fund is need-based. And we do actually have someone who works for the school district now who worked on the Daniels Foundation for 6.5 years. And his name escapes me, but I talked to him, and he's awesome. He'd be a great resource for us. So what you do is you get on there, and if you make too much money, it will kick you out. So need-based is important. But that's kind of its time frame. They don't have the 2019 dates out, but in the past it was November 29th, so it's right in there. Quest Bridge is also interesting. That opens late summer for you seniors. This is need-based, high academics skills. That's what it's based on. And the applications are due September 26th. Quest Bridge is a national program where they match you with schools. So you can put rank 12 schools on your list, and then apply to these schools, and then they will also rank you. So you might get number 1, or you might get number 3, but we are talking Yale and Harvard and Stanford and MIT. It's really an impressive list. If you're interested in this, or know people are interested in it, look at it as a junior, because there's a scholarship, something you can get as, I think it's called like prep scholar, I can't remember the term. And if you get that, you are up for some smaller scholarships, and then you can go to one of their conferences in the summer. And you get the prompts early. So Quest Bridge is a good one to look at. I guess my point is they're out there. The money is out there. But it can be so overwhelming, and you don't want to apply. If you know you're not going to go to school in Colorado, then don't apply for Betcher. Oh, and I didn't tell you, Daniels Fund is a full ride anywhere in the United States. Quest Bridge, I told you the 12 schools. Or you get the 12 schools. So, when you're talking about scholarships, they are not looking for a resume that's packed with every activity. So, this this side of the room will get this. Remember the Marsha Brady episode where Marsha went into high school and she signed up for every club? Yeah. That's what I always think of when I do this. Like, I'm going to do this and this, I'm going to do this and this, and then she decided on one at the end. But they want to see that you've done great. They want to see that you are leaving a legacy. I had a student last year who started a PB&J club at Grand Junction High School with his buddy. His mom worked at the museum. One day he was walking out and he saw the homeless people across the street and he's like, I got to do something. So he went home, researched it while eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and he and Donovan started the club. Every Thursday at lunch, they made 40 to 50 sandwiches and went out and fed the homeless. Well, what's cool about this is then he got involved in they asked him to get the shelter or the house, asked him to get involved in something, and then Witch said, we have been looking for someone to help. We will provide these supplies for you to keep doing this. And it's like, I'm like, Luke, you've left a legacy. I mean, that's what's so cool. So I ask my students these questions. What makes you really, really, really excited? What makes you really excited? Or what makes you really, really, really mad? Brielle read a Facebook post, and it was a boy was supposed to be adopted on one day. And in the Facebook post it said, they decided it, not even he, it wasn't a good fit. And the caseworker had shown the back of her car filled with white trash bags and all his possessions. And she goes, you think you're having a bad day? I need to find a place for this boy to sleep. And Brielle's like, I gotta do something. And obviously foster care and adoption and trying to change the life of one child is important in our family. But she started We've Got Your Bag, which collected backpacks and suitcases for kids in foster care. And she got to do television interviews and newspaper, but she's like, I can't just, and she applied for a grant. See, kids can apply for a grant. She didn't get it, but it was just like people were just pouring in with the stuff because she cared about it. So I don't care if it's PB&J or if it's sustainable farming or if it's foster kids and aging out of the system. Like, you find your thing and you go after it, and you know your reason why. So there's something that is really close to my heart, and I call it my WildPeace project. First, you must connect with what's in your heart. Then you must connect with others. So think about that, and think about that with the kids you work with. What is it that moves you? Where your tears flow, your mission follows. I cannot read an article about an abused child. I cannot finish the article. I've never been able to do that. And I know you have your thing, whatever it is. Well, then do something about it. And what's incredible is you young people have this energy and these ideas, like maybe there's a documentary you could do. Like, what is it? If you know your why, then you apply for these scholarships, right? You can sit down in an interview and talk passionately about what you care about. So you might go to your dream school and you might get this money, but guess what else? You are changing the world by changing your community. So I challenge everyone to start a WildPeace project. And here's why I say you must connect with your heart, then you must connect with others, because this is the world you guys live in. In 2020, it is estimated that 70% of the population, 6.1 billion people, will have cell phone service. So if you think about that, you can be as connected, we can be as connected here, just a few feet away from each other, as we can be connected to someone around the world, right? Well, reverse it. You can be as connected to someone around the world as you are to that person sitting a few feet away. And there's a photographer, his name is Eric Pickersgill, and he did this group. Am I doing okay? He did these photographs, and he saw people with their cell phones. You know, like I remember when we were in Boulder, and one of the girls was touring CU, and we went to brunch at that really great place, by the way. It's really good. And I looked around, they're all waiting for a table on a Sunday morning, and no one was talking. Everyone was on their phone, my family included. And I'm like, this is wrong. So I love these pieces, this photography that he did. So he posed people, they had their phones, or iPads, and then he took them out, and he has this whole series. I mean, we're together, but we're not together. Nothing in their hands, but they're not communicating. So my question to you is, what's in your hand? So kids, what is in your hand? Maybe it's a lacrosse stick. Maybe it's a camera. Maybe it's a baseball bat. you know, maybe it's a violin, I don't know. But what is in your hands? Because that must be what you truly care about. Then do something with that. Don't just go fill your resume with activity after, don't be Marsha Brady. Don't fill activity after activity, but do what you truly care about. So think about what is in your hand. And once you've done that, it's time to write your story. I have to share this picture. We were signing up to go camping this summer with the national parks, and up popped, sign up for the lottery for the Easter egg roll at the White House. Chris was like, okay. And then he told me in March, hey, we got tickets to the Easter egg roll at the White House. I'm like, well, we must go. Like, that's a once in a lifetime thing. And I was like, I'm just gonna do picture after picture, and hopefully there will be one that, you know, Andrew's smiling or something, right? Well, this is my favorite picture, because it's kind of like he's looking like, yeah, I can be there someday, you know? So anyway, I love that picture, but what I love is what I do. It's help people tell their stories. I'm a writing coach, and I'm so blessed by that. And that is what I want to share with you. So, if you want to connect, I am on Facebook and Instagram, and I do try to share scholarships or tips that way. So, go ahead, join in. And now I open it up for questions. I threw a lot at you, and I'm not sure if that helped volunteers.
It was great.
Yeah. Help parents, or I kept staring at you. Thank you, Trick. So,
No, really good.
okay. It's a different process than in the olden days. In my day. Yeah. Where you didn't have a choice. I had to go to a state school. My parents said, well, you can just pick one of the state schools. Well, I didn't know you could cross the border. You know, like, oh, okay, I'll go here. You know, so.
And no computers and no.
Oh, yeah. You're right, yeah. So many things are done online. That's why you want to do it in Word and Google, so that you don't say, wow, I just hit submit. But the best feeling is when you do hit submit and go, that's the best work, that's who I am. And if they want me, they'll take me. And I will tell you this, out of 3 children, and actually now starting to work with these kids, none of my girls went to the first choice. You know, some were not even in the running. And I'm seeing that with these other kids, you know, so, and what they're doing is they're making the most of it. That's what it's about, and I'm sure you can talk about that with your daughters.
Yeah.
You know, it's what you do once you're on campus. Thank you for letting me talk college apps.